Hi, I'm Lucy.
I'm Claire.
Hi, my name's Katie.
My name's Harriet.
I'm Wangari.
Well, my name is Zoltan.
I'm Robin Brocky.
My name's Amy.
Hi, my name's Christian.
And in 2008, I was diagnosed with severe depression.
OCD.
Depression and anorexia.
Depression.
Generalised anxiety disorder.
Depression.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Depression, anxiety. Severe depression.
I think I realised that I had OCD from a very young age. I think I was about 14 years old, but I only actually got help and it's when it started interfering with my life.
I had an Asperger's syndrome diagnosis when I was very young, when I was in primary school, so that's something I've always known to be a root of the depression that I've had.
Just before I came to university in 2008, I actually took an overdose, and that was the first time my friends had really seen me vulnerable, and I think that was a point at which I ended up in hospital, and I think that was a point at which I really realised there was something actually wrong.
I thought, I'm going off to university in 2 weeks, this is supposed to be the best time of my life, and I just couldn't understand what was happening, which was the scariest part of it really.
I didn't need a reason to live before, but I suddenly felt like I needed one, and at that time I couldn't find it.
I essentially stopped eating. I ate as little as I could get away with, as little as my parents would let me, in essence. I was very grumpy, I cried a lot.
I don't want to leave the house. I can't cope around people I don't know.
Sometimes I felt these really extreme kind of feelings of like despair and desperation and just not knowing what to do. And then there were other times where I just felt absolute numbness and I just felt nothing. I felt like I didn't exist.
That feeling of weight and feeling horrible, but having like the most manic energy, and that's really difficult because you've got so much energy to put into hating yourself.
I was constantly worried and my hands started getting really raw because I constantly had to wash my hands and I couldn't help it, and my friends started to realise it and they'd try and sit me down and be like, okay, I'll stop washing your hands, but then I'd sneak out of my room like at 1 o'clock in the morning when they're all asleep just to wash my hands, just to get rid of that intrusive thought. Emotionally you are constantly on edge and you don't really feel anything other than fear constantly.
I don't think people realise a lot of the time the physical symptoms that come with something like depression, where actually you just feel physically totally drained.
I couldn't move to walk across my room, which is about 5 foot long, to get a drink of water was physically impossible. I just couldn't do it even if I was desperate.
It doesn't just affect your mood. Depression also warps your thoughts and your perceptions.
I get into this sort of state of self-loathing so that I'm sort of mentally punching myself and thinking, Zoltan, why aren't you better at life? Why are you such a terrible person?
I just did not want to live. I think I described it as I don't actually want to kill myself, I just don't want to have to feel this anymore, and that's the only way I can do it. Suicide is the only way out.
If I had to liken it to anything else outside of mental illness, probably something like the worst heartbreak you could ever imagine, but all the time and without reason.
I didn't have any friends, I didn't really have any functional relationships, I didn't have university, I wasn't a member of any societies, and that kind of cycle just meant that I was kind of increasingly becoming disconnected from the rest of the world.
I only really talked to people in lectures and so on, and that was only a little bit because I was so terrified of them realising.
Didn't eat, you don't keep up with showering and making sure you have clean clothes, let alone going into uni and remembering that the reason you're here is because you actually really want a degree.
I couldn't get my work done on time and I couldn't face coming into university, I couldn't face going to lectures. I struggled in my relationships at home, nearly split up with my partner.
I found it very difficult to start and maintain relationships and friendships with people because the negative thoughts that came with depression, it kind of gave me the feeling that I was inflicting myself on other people.
There was nothing in me that could remind me of the things that made me happy. I completely forgot what it was that, you know, got me out of bed in the morning or you know, led me to keep on going.
You feel like you have absolutely no strength left, but there always seems to be resources of it. It's really strange. It's like wherever it's kept, you just find them. You just need to find them. And for me, it was running that helped me to locate where that extra strength was.
The diagnosis was very helpful in confirming to myself that really it's something I've got to get on with, rather than something that should just enable me to give up at life because I'm just no good at it.
It maybe is just a thing that just happens to people, you know, like diabetes or something. Just some people have it.
Very fashionable to be down on antidepressants, you know, just like chemicals, they don't work, but for me they've saved my life.
I really needed something practical to help me kind of plan my life, because I wasn't very good at just sitting down and functioning as a normal human being.
I started focusing on a routine and making sure I slept enough, making sure I ate a lot of fruit and vegetables and the right kind of vitamins, and recognising, you know, when I was starting to fall down again and telling somebody.
The more self-aware you become, I think the more you can understand what's going on. That doesn't mean you can stop it, but it does mean that you sort of know how to look out for yourself a bit better.
I've educated myself on my own condition and other conditions, ways of treating and managing mental health problems.
So I joined the society and I completely threw myself into it, and that really helped with the social isolation and gave me something to really look forward to.
I started meeting lots of people who'd been through similar situations, and I realised that maybe the antidepressants and all of the kind of medical treatment wasn't necessarily going to work for me. What really worked for me was talking to these people and finding out how they managed their symptoms.
I know a lot about myself now, and I know I do really quirky things, but it's just kind of like getting to the point where you feel comfortable enough being like, it is a part of me, but I'm not going to let it control me.
I was so determined to not let it beat me. Actually, I felt that I tried quite a lot harder in other aspects of my life.
And I would simply be a totally different person if I didn't have the mental issues that I do.
I've had so much support in the last 2 years, and what's amazing is like literally every tutor or member of any kind of staff has always tried their best just to help.
I'm still alive, I survived all this stuff, and I think I could handle quite a lot.
Biggest thing to advise anybody who's struggling is go and ask for help and tell your friend.
If you can find people that you can just talk to, it makes it so much easier, and you are definitely not alone. I know that sounds really cliche, but you're not.
Even if you think there's no one else in the world that cares, there will always be someone, and there will always be someone that would be devastated if you're not here.
It's surprising, there's a lot more people out there with depression and mental health problems than you realise. I think just nobody talks about it and they keep it a secret.
It's very helpful to find whatever outlet you might have for expressing yourself and exploring that.
A lot of people aren't very informed and think that counselling is the fix-all for everything, but there are alternative therapies out there, and if it's not helping you, then really definitely look into what else there is available.
Finding ways to feel safe is a really important one. Not expecting too much of yourself.
Don't forget the achievement that it is when you do get up and you do go out, and even if you go for a 5-minute walk, that's a goal. You know, don't think of the big picture at the start, but just think of those little goals that you can meet every day that will make you feel good about yourself, because they're just as important as the big one.
There isn't really such a thing as always being good at dealing with the things life throws at you, and you just have to take it at your own pace and work with whatever your problems might be, and you will get there eventually.